Memo bibia kwaba eba Melodies TV so. Menim se mumu bebre na mo twan. And Melodies wonte Chief Justice no wako ama ya bona asem egu. Mumu bebre na mo twan ye ne die. Me de bremo. But answer ni ebeba court in them. Court say or the ruling no ebeba by 12th of June. Inti no say ruling eba. Be sure say Melodies. Say judges no. Me ready obibia. What you say? Ne judgments, and then we learn. Okay, I'm not going to lie. The court rulings na me reading the kra no. Ma me sua de more about the constitution. And then me kra me to me quote constitution. Say just because of judgments na me reading no. Into no the pa a good exercise. But let me take you from a report from a journalist of My Joy Online. Now, he reported right from when the Chief Justice entered the courtroom. So I'm going to take you from there. And then we go into the main case. The course case nimu unanimous decision no ne yakoso what you say. Very simple. Inti journalist ninsemo a wodin kan o say the suspended Chief Justice Getrude 5 hours ago. And said the suspended Chief Justice Getrude Torkornoo has just arrived at the Supreme Court. The court is expected to hear and decide on her application to injunct the ongoing process to remove her from office. The Chief Justice arrived in the company of her husband. Inti onini kunu enebae. Inti oremu no onini kunu nebae. Ono aba koto. As a suspended Chief Justice Getrude Torkornoo walks into the Supreme Court building as the Apex Court prepares to hear her application to injunct the processes to remove her from office. Inti owie no de panel a womotena case ne so edi omobae na ohwe judges etina so a enya asem keto a. O say the Supreme Court hearing the suspended Chief Justice's injunction application case. Acting Chief Justice Paul Bafoboni, Justice Omoru Amadou Tanko, Yoni Kulendi, Justice Henry Kofi, and then Justice Richard Ejay Frimpong. Into wo hwe Paul Bafoboni o wono no the active Chief Justice. Into ono oti case ni subi. Amadou Tanko na mebabe ready the judgment. Essentially no na de work the law is the law. And also o case ni mubi. Justice Yonu Kulendi ono so mebabe ready ne de ema muni na mu hu ye. And also sa pepepe ono no ka say justice whilst the heaven is the end. Muni amoka sa statement sa phrase no. Yes, say osoro tokra na udi asemo a was so make sure say asem no be di ne pepepe ansa na so osoro beto ato ono no make a statement. Yes. And then Henry Kofi now, Justice Henry Kofi na video na MPP for Adenta Kumi edi betwa antro no. Justice Henry Kofi na no the first judge. Once are 3 judges na wo mo nante equal restaurant nim no. Justice Henry Kofi no the first judge na odi enim na on she suit na o she white no. Ono ye fe no Henry Kofi. Nti oha ye twa antro ato ne so e wo case we so. Ena Justice Richard Ejay Frimpong. So these are, and this is what I'm going to say. These are judges bia. Nanka Ghana hano, these controversial cases no first no, nanki yenhu so mo tena so. Nanka obete na NS Gaehu, obete na Mensa Bonsu. And mo tena case ne so. But this time around no, em say judges we, and these are senior judges as well. Omo ye senior Supreme Court judges. Omo ba Supreme Court ho, eja most of omo wo horses here no. Inti no, say omo na etina case we so no. Seniority hunti no, obehu ne say yes. Except at some better case ne so. Now let's go into more details. Do you see here? I say the suspended Chief Justice initially sat directly behind the Deputy Attorney General, Dr. Justice Remsai, in the Supreme Court. She has now changed positions and moved to the extreme right. She is sandwiched by her husband and former MPP MP K.T. Hammond. Update from court. Into no tremwa. Say Chief Justice no wenhu eno kokotena baby na baby okotena no tineni no na what say Attorney General Deputy Attorney General Justice Remsai echi na Attorney General na edi asem na eti ono no ka asem na eti ano no timinim so realize say meti Attorney General echi no eno sesa ne position eno kokotena baby foforo, right? I say the Deputy Attorney General leading the charge for the Attorney General has applied to the court to strike out the names of Justice Piamang and other members of the committee as parties to the suit filed by the CJ. Godfrey Dame, lawyer for suspended Chief Justice, is opposed. Panel to decide. Enti Deputy Attorney General Justice Remsai edinkan ekatre judges no. Say Chief Justice ninsemo a wode aba say Justice Piamang the additional affidavit a wode ba say Justice Piamang yenyin infri committee ne so no. Attorney General eka say yembo sansem nigu. Deputy Attorney General say yembo sansem nigu. Godfrey Dame so argue say dabi yemma nenka. Ena eye judges no eka say womu ko decide e wo so. Nti omu ni na make omu case. Judges ni ko decide. Inti ahona judges no do ede eye decision by ya was say the application has been dismissed. Objection overruled. The application has been dismissed. Objection overruled. Inti no ha application no ya dismiss it. Say or say Justice Piamang yemma wo mo free case ni so no ya boegu. Right? Ya boegu. Or see, the lawyer for suspended Chief Justice Godfrey Dame says the application by a Deputy Attorney General are unmeritorious. Says that the depositions in the affidavit, example, body searches, etc., do not constitute proceedings in the way the Attorney General is contending. Now, before that, I think it starts from here. So you understand. It's more like a thread. As I say, if you know how Twitter works, it works in a thread form. So let's go into the thread. Or see, Justice Sai is making a new application before the court, urging it to strike out the Chief Justice's supplementary affidavit. He contends that the affidavit violates Article 146 of the Constitution, which mandates that proceedings of the committee be held in camera. One of the things that Chief Justice Neka say, Adiana say, yenye it should be held in camera no. Na Chief Justice no suspended Chief Justice no say dabi obese Ghana fo ni nehu. Inti Deputy Attorney General in the person of Justice Remsai share application for frase e court say Chief Justice ninsemo ode aba no yembongu because asem a violation of the Article 146 of the Constitution. The Constitution clearly stated say it should be held in camera. It is all kasamayen hodi in camera, not just opposite violating Constitution no. Inti Justice Remsai an argument no. And so if we follow the thread, I say according to Justice Srai, the content of the Chief Justice affidavit disclosed details of the ongoing committee proceedings, thereby breaching the confidentiality requirements imposed by the Constitution. He argues that this conduct undermines the camera rule, meant to safeguard the integrity of the judicial process. In support of his application, he cites the Supreme Court's ruling in the Derry case, which emphasized the need to protect the reputation of justices under investigation, preserve the dignity of the judiciary. It is Justice Remsai Ekokotremu, and I've always told you on this platform, say the framers of the Constitution in the entire Wamoka say, side no, yen in camera, they said they wanted to protect the judiciary and they wanted to protect judges. It is just as a good lawyer and good lawyers and judges do no. Justice Remsai ekoti case BAC wa Ghana. No bibi says see no so ye no judges in Semba ya magana fwanti. Eno kasa se ye na sa de ade ntia na the Chief Justice de yen pese e be ne sa. Into say and shield witnesses involved in such sensitive proceedings. Justice Sai maintains that the Chief Justice's affidavit, by revealing matters discussed before the committee, offends these principles and must therefore be struck out. Lawyer for the suspended Chief Justice Godfrey Dame says the application by the Deputy Attorney General are unmeritorious. Says the depositions in the affidavit, etc., body searches, etc., do not constitute proceedings in the way the Attorney General is contending. The acting Chief Justice Bafuboni, presiding over the court, says some of the depositions are clearly matters that happened at the committee and are therefore proceedings of the committee. And so we have now or more argue Chief Justice Ninsemo Awaka say yes chino no utie Godfrey Dame nsemo awakan ya o say ane Chief Justice no search na yes chino no oyoba ene yema bema na search no nta say pese etrese obema bi di ne ho agro nsem bebre. But Justice Remsai na wono so trending semu. I say the suspended Chief Justice Getrude Torkornoo has leaned slightly to the left in her chair, resting her cheek against a clenched fist, her gaze fixed intently on the courtroom as proceedings continue in the Supreme Court. She intermittently speaks to her husband and she refocuses. Inti Oma seni America no. Oma more updates. Chief Justice no wachia ne ho ode ne nsa ato na bodwo so seni case ne kono ode ne nsa ato na bodwo so no wo tie ene wo hwe ne kunu anim na wakwa he judges ne nim kakra at here, and then went on to give another thread. I see the acting Chief Justice observes that it is evident some of the dispositions in the supplementary affidavit pertain to matters that fall within the purview of committee's proceedings that by constitutional mandate must be held in camera. Justice Tanko concurs, suggesting that the suspended Chief Justice's case could have been effectively made without relying on those contested depositions. Attorney General Godfrey Dami pushes back, arguing that even if portions of the affidavit touch on in-camera matters, that alone cannot bar an aggrieved person, particularly on who is the subject of removal petitions from seeking redress in court. Until they were still talking about the camera issues, no. Until here, na judges, no. And so, can't and some more say, well, proceedings, constitution proceeding in camera, no, it's part of the proceedings. Attorney General also said, Dabi, and yes, and that's here, and yes, anything. I say, let's read more threads. I say, Justice Tanko interjects. Now, King Kanya, I say, Justice Tanko interjects, dummy. I say, Justice Tanko interjects while Dame was speaking, pointing out, half in jest, that the Attorney General himself had previously taken to the airwaves, specifically Joy FM, arguing his case even more forcefully in public than in courts. The courtroom burst into laughter. But in all the laughter, suspended Chief Justice Torkornoo does not join in. She does not smile, nor does she laugh. Her expression is fixed, her gaze locked firmly on the bench as her lawyer presses on with her case. Inti judge bako katre Godfrey Dami say, hey, send ya waba court as a woody case, o can in some no ewo yen judges ni no, ye hun wo. Uko Joy FM for, Joy TV for, ema uko ye interview no. Send ya na wo argue case no, now they are holding argue case no class saying the wo ye wo court hano. Ena nkrofo sha say almost 3. But you say 3 na nkrofo 3 wo court ho ni na kra no. Na the suspended Chief Justice no, or no de on 3. Waka ne nimesi so. Well, no, they were focused. I will head the echo. Now, a honorable judgment by a unanimous decision. The court has ruled that the supplementary affidavit filed by the Chief Justice CJ discloses information meant to be kept in camera, in line with Article 146. Accordingly, the court has struck out the supplementary affidavit filed. Main case now being heard. Into omudin kan ebo the supplementary affidavit no beka say ye ne yakayaka de ene ye ni sei ene the soldiers na egu ho ene baby a wo no kra no ene wo bohu ene ye mani hu ni kunu ye mani hu ne ma ede sansem ni na no judges na bo egu because almost say sansem na wo kan ni na no or reveal issues a constitution make say in camera my ma wo bi enti my ma Ghana fonte no wo de aba be to bedwam inti no. In essence, no, you are revealing the proceedings of the, which is against Article 146. Inti judges no abo assembly gu. Inti omobo assembly gu no moka say the main issue interlocutory injunction a wo seeki say yema His Excellency John Dramani Mahama one stop process no ni ensanso ma ombra as Chief Justice biom no. Those were the main issues. Inti yabo sa supplementary the workers say in camera no mama Ghana phone na hu yema Ghana phone tie ni ehwe de ekoso na nyama no those in 70 na no ya boy go nti now we are coming to the main case. Here. Now let's go to the main case. I say as the ruling was delivered, the suspended Chief Justice gave a subtle shrug and then a faint smile. She then shifted her gaze back to the bench and watched on. Proceedings continue. Inti yema ruling say yabona semegu no. No ye nim style bi ye nim style on sa facial expression e ya wotai no ye nim facial expression bi me just say nitin ma some worker say me am nkrofo na mo ye me see ende Me the minimum. I'm just alleging. Now let's go more. Let's read more. I see. Godfrey Dame is now contending that Justice Spearman, Justice Asiedu, Adibu, and other members of the committee cannot be presented by the Attorney General in the ongoing matter. Inti case ne sanso koso na Godfrey Dame sanso raise case biom say committee no judges mienu e woso no Justice Spearman and Justice Asiedu no Attorney General no ntumi represent you because omo ye judges, omo ye Supreme Court judges. Inti the entire was Attorney General no or represent you. And also Tanko JSC challenges Dame's position, asking whether he expects the judges on the committee to personally hire lawyers and file affidavits in their individual capacities, despite the fact that they are acting in an official capacity as members of a constitutionally mandated body. Wehu Judge Tanko nyansa semo ka kire Godfrey Dame o say judges no ejuma wo moye no constitution e dia shomonsa omundi boni bia enti se wo ka se Attorney General no mun defend you mo opese judges na nkasa be file affidavit fa lawyer etia lawyer ka be file affidavit ba court be waste time wo court ebe di asem no wo court emra ejuma wo moye constitution e dia shomonsa so wo monye sa na opese judges ne ye Amadu Tanko question obisa no. I say Justice Kulendi appears to disagree with Godfrey Dame's arguments. He notes that the judges on the committee are performing state functions, not acting in their private interest. He emphasizes that these judges were not self-appointed, but rather were in their corner, and were co-opted by the state to serve on the committee under Article 146. And as such, they are entitled to be represented by the Attorney General. Or say judges we sabi omuti omo baby du omo ho. And a president etun sabe fro mo say according to Article 146 no. Momra meye adwuma ma oman no. Inti se wo ka say judges no ma Attorney General and represent you omo a. What do you want them to do? E dey na person omo ye. Inti utie judges ne nsem a wo mo ka che Godfrey Dame na na tre say e ho no we hu sani ansem ne ye den e koye. Atia say that is that. So see, Godfrey Dame has withdrawn the application. Substantive injunction application now being heard. Inti judges ne keka sansem ne tre Godfrey Dame no. And Godfrey Dame who said that be ensem wa making judges ne nsem mo kan nyansa wom. Ensem wa me de ba court ya making there. I say matoto papa so inti wo de anya hwe me ana me de ma asem ba ya me twe asan. And Godfrey Dame twe asem ne san. Aye, and I go for them here. They or chance them the side. Intino and I say the suspended Chief Justice Getrude Torkornoo just called one of junior lawyer, and quietly whispered some instructions to him. The junior lawyer walked to the bar, approaches a lawyer seated beside Godfrey Dame, and relays the message. Say, case Nikosana Getrude Torkornoo a free lawyer B. And or can asem chen say one konko kan che Godfrey Dame. It meaning say no coach Godfrey Dame dia. Oh, asem no can say manifase. Lawyer no so koko ka che Godfrey Dame. I say Godfrey Dame has made a spirited argument on his feet for a little over 30 minutes. Interspersed with questions from the bench. He has rested. He wants the release to be granted. The Deputy Attorney General is now on his feet, countering the position taken by Mr. Dame. It's Godfrey Dame resinin sem ekekan ye de entia injunction no yemfa nto mahama so ne yembongu ne yema Chief Justice nsanso mbra biom 30 minutes yema ne 30 minutes kikan nsem ni na kikan nsem ne brofu ne bibia ebisebisa ne nsem ma o ansai owie ne ka so okay eye Shremsai Justice Shremsai lawyer Shremsai the Attorney General me say Justice Shremsai, that means one day he might become one day he might become a judge, a Supreme Court judge. He should receive it wherever he is. And the Deputy Attorney General, lawyer Shremsai, and so more, and also the Nadia a coy. And to say, oral arguments have been concluded. Both Godfrey Dame and Dr. Justice Shremsai have been heard. The court has gone into recess to return with a ruling. It's in some way more can in an obia can in some way. judges ni so mo etie ye kwa dwen ho ne the ruling na ye den aba nti ruling no ho e na afei mo amunim ruling no, but we will go to the ruling. Before that, what happened? I say, as we await the ruling of the court, suspended Chief Justice Getrude Torkornoo now sits with her right leg resting on her left knee, leaning slightly to her right and engaged in a conversation with two lawyers and her husband. To say, earlier, her lead counsel, Godfrey Dame, briefly walked over to her. The two had a brief conversation before Dame returned to his seat. Inti ruling no, ena unanimous. You're born in same ni 5 judges ni na. So now let's go and read the unanimous decision. Inti sisi no mamao blow by blow accounts. You see inti we very interesting what happened in court. At ya say, me sure say after this series no, a lot of you listening to me will now be interested in law because seriously, me cry no. Court judgment ni nyama ni proceedings ni nyama making kan wa hakra no me nkan da mama law ne kra no adome kon age ase we sure say mumu bi no law no be do kon sa. I say the Supreme Court has unanimously dismissed an injunction application filed by suspended Chief Justice Getrude Torkornoo, which sought to halt the proceedings of a presidential committee investigating petitions for her removal from office. I say, Justice Torkornoo filed the application on Wednesday, May 21st, 2025, asking the Apex Court to issue an interlocutory injunction against the 6-member committee established by President John Mahama. The application aimed to restrain the committee from carrying out any inquiry related to petitions until the substantive case is resolved. According to court documents, the Chief Justice sought an order specifically barring Justice Gabriel Scott Piamine and Samuel Kwame Adibu Asiedu, as well as other committee members, including Daniel Yaudomelevo, Major Flora Basuwaru Dalugu, and Professor James Sefa Jiasa from participating in the investigation. She also requested that Justices Piamine and Adibu Asiedu be disqualified from presiding over or contributing to the committee's deliberation. However, the Supreme Court, in a unanimous ruling on Wednesday, May 28, dismissed the application. The full written ruling is expected to be made available on June 12, 2025. This decision marks a significant development in the ongoing legal battle surrounding the suspension of Justice Torkornoo and the constitutional questions it raises. And so basically, no, you've understood. Unanimous no. Answer na unanimous no be do no. They be a free buy. You sure say what you say. Montre mo your comment box ni mo. But I say.